Yeah. Trying to see if there's something I need to. I think I need to do this. Go away. You go away. And you. Where am I? I'm still not sure. Okay, it says it's streaming, but I'm not sure.
Well, I've
So
got,
I just heard someone say Da Vinci Code.
yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I read that chapter too.
yeah.
Yeah, and also the a lot of croc. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
There was even a French version of all that kind of thinking, which had to do with the Holy Grail. There was a very popular book. I forget the name of it. It was Blood and something or something in Blood. Um, but it was all wildly popular in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and then revived by Da Vinci's Code, really, in whatever year that was, early 2000s.
Yeah, and then it brought on like all these knockoffs. I remember like
Yeah,
Nicolas Cage's National Treasure, and oh
yeah,
god, it goes on
exactly.
and on. That was insufferable.
I remember we have a big Masonic. I'm here in Washington D.C. and there is like it might be the headquarters of the whole shebang here in on 16th Street, a few blocks north of 16th Street is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. 16th Street, the north-south street that ends is the number street for the White House being on 1600 Pennsylvania. But at any rate, about a few blocks north on 16th Street from the White House is a humongous Masonic temple. I mean, it's like the size of a city block. And I went in there once, and they have like tours because, of course, nowadays the Masons are all kind of like Shriners. Shriners are like the lay version, and they, do fundraisers for children's hospitals and all that kind of stuff. So it's very open. You go in, and it's a beautiful building, and it's inside. It's these big high ceiling walls and marble everywhere, and marble steps, and all this kind of stuff going on. And they have guys there that'll gladly take you on a tour of the whole place. These old guys, and they're like, "Yes, let's get our group together." And takes you around and tells you everything. And at one point, they had this plaque about all the presidents, that United States presidents, that were Masons. And I said, well, there's a I just said to him, I said, there's a prevailing theory that you have to be a Mason to be a president. That's how you get to be president. You get in the Masons and you go up to the highest rung of Masondom, which I guess is third degree or first degree. I don't know, whatever is the highest degree. And he said, well, that's a little, ox before the cart. What happens is what actually happened was any president that was elected president and inaugurated was automatically by the Masons made their highest degree of masonry. Kind of like an honorific,
Seems like cheating.
whether the president accepted it or not. It's just like they all got together and vote. We now make president so and so, which is a little different thing. And of course, the one president was, I think Kennedy wasn't, I don't think Clinton was. I think that whole process kind of fell apart and they don't do that anymore. But it was a very different perspective on how it all works. So, at any rate, so that's when I started to think it was all a crock. These they're not conspiracy theories, these grand scheme theories, with the drawing of the lights and all that kind of stuff. Which is not to say that George Washington didn't put Masonic symbols in the Capitol, and he was a Mason. But I don't know how mysterious it was versus just civic, like it was a men's club, a rich men's club, basically, in the time of Washington. but it's given spawn to a thousand books.
Yeah, I when I like a friend got me like tricked me into reading the Da Vinci Code, and so afterwards I was just like really skeptical of the whole thing, and I was living in New York at the time, and so there was like this building that was supposed to be of some significance. I mean, thank God I forgot most of that book. But anyway, like there was one building in New York that was supposed to be of some significance, and I went to that cross street that they mentioned, and there was no such building there. Like there was
The
just, and
Masons
I
did
was
it.
at that point. Right, right. They moved it. They
Yeah,
teleported it out or
put a
something.
secret veil over it,
Yeah.
which if you join the Masons, you could see through.
Well, I know Anne, you were here last week, and Jay, were you here 2 weeks
I
ago?
I re- I wanted to. I actually wanted to join you guys for both weeks before, but just yeah, like the schedule wouldn't allow it. But I'm finally here. Very happy to like finally talk with you guys.
Have you been catching up the reread, or have you read this before, or is
I
this a reread or
actually
first
have
time?
never. I had actually never read this before until you sent me the first chapter, and then I went and got the rest of the stuff. So thank you for the master edition. I actually read the original black and white, and then I read the versions that you sent me to see what the difference was. And I'm interested in seeing if anybody else did that as well. Like, what were their experiences between the original and the master edition?
Yeah, I mean, I read the original black and white when it first came out back at the time, but now the color. This is the first time it's been colorized, is the current edition, the master edition right now. And I've been going through it now because of that. And we talked about it a little 2 weeks ago. It does change the tone. It does change the experience a little. I don't think it's worse. I don't think it's necessarily worse, but it changes the emotion, I think. Mm.
Yeah, I actually it was quite a it was jarring for me almost, because I had read the color first, the of chapter one that you sent me, like a couple weeks ago, and then I couldn't get the rest of the master edition, so I borrowed it from the library, and the library only had the black and white, and so I read like I think 5 or 6 chapters of the black and white version, and when I first read it, it was jarring to see the black and white um, coming from color,
Yeah.
in a good way actually. That it was like, oh wow, like this was what it was meant to be like, when they
Yeah.
first put like pencil to paper.
Yeah, there's always the argument that if it was done originally for color or for black and white, that it should stay there. You shouldn't mess with it because there was the artist's intention of conveying a certain style for film or for anything, a certain effect that they were going for, and you're going to change that by changing it. But I've seen things that have been colored from black and white that I think are perfectly fine. I mean, it is a different experience, but it seems to me perfectly artistically valid. Mm,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I think both have merit, and I'm glad both exist.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting to read both because you do get a different emotion. You do get a different uh, atmosphere from the two experiences, but it seems to me just an equally valid artistic expression.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also I appreciate that the annotations. I didn't realize that was for every volume. Um, the original didn't have those very page by page like account of every single like panel that was fantastic, and then also the original script. Um, that was quite good. That was also not in the original.
Wait a minute. The when you say the original
The black
published
and white version.
editions? No, 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 no. The index was there. The annotations were there for the
Really?
original.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so weird. Okay, I don't know. I don't know why. Because it was like it was maybe the one I had was just different somehow. I don't. I didn't. I missed the annotations. Because like I
Mm.
said, I read the master edition first, and I was like, oh, where's the annotations for the original? Because I would like to hear some background. In fact, if I didn't have the annotations for this week's reading, like I would not have known that the first few pages was supposed to be for the birth of Adolf Hitler, like at all. Like I could not have guessed that at all.
That's
Like,
yeah.
how are we supposed to know? Is this supposed to be like a very kind of famous reference? Are they like intricately linked between like Jack the Ripper and Adolf Hitler? Are they linked in some way
Yeah.
that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, right. Well, we could get into that. Well, Wayne, Wayne, you've been sitting very patiently. Let me. I don't. Were you here 2 weeks ago? There were a lot of people here.
No,
I don't
this
know
is
if
my first time I saw it. I just got involved in this the meetup thing, the Toronto philosophy thing, and so I've just been bouncing. I read philosophy, but I'm mostly uh, read like Bertrand Russell and that kind of thing. It's kind of guy I really enjoy his way of looking at things, and so this was a chance to get immersed in some of the others. Although I've got books of Kant and several other uh, philosophers, I haven't got around to reading them all yet. So I'm kind of new to the philosophy thing. I kind of got into it back probably 6 months ago, 8 months ago, or a friend of mine, and I've really got into it because I do yoga, so I study yoga philosophy along with the uh, philosophy. But I saw this. I did another book. It was on. It was a Japanese book written. What was it? Written by Japanese. It was that Japanese. And I just thought this is really cool to kind of mix philosophy with the analysis of some of these books. And I'm just kind of like real open-minded, so I like to explore a lot of different things. So I did manage to get this thing improvised on my tablet, and then I just locked the screen so I could read the chapter. So I did go through it. I had no idea what I was reading. I may have an idea, but I just didn't quite get. Hopefully, y'all can shed some light on all the meaning of all this because I kind of.
Yeah, you said it. You said it was upside down. I don't know.
Yeah, there was somebody else that put a note in the on the event that it was upside down and backwards, and so it is. You start from the bottom and go up. The first chapter is at the bottom of the page, so you scroll up to get. You got to go up to get to the next chapter instead of down to the next chapter.
Okay. Well,
So, but they're in order after that. I mean, they're in order if you scroll up.
no.
So you had to kind of figure out.
Honestly, I really don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's just all backwards. It's just if you don't lock your screen, the text and everything is upside down.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Wayne,
Yeah. I'm on a desktop. I don't own one of those tablet things. But
I don't think know if it makes any difference.
I wouldn't think
Wayne,
so either. Yeah.
I was kind of curious. So how did you read the reading? Did you actually scroll up as you went along, or did you have to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
all the way to
I'm
the
on
end?
page 1 of chapter 5 right now, so I'll scroll down to get to page 2 instead of scrolling up to get to page 2.
Oh, I see. So you're
And
pulling
then
your
I
finger
lock the
down.
display so it will be right side up instead of upside down.
And what tablet are you using? Are you using an iPad or using an Android tablet?
It's a Samsung S5e.
And what app are you using to read the comic?
I managed to save the file to Dropbox. It
Okay,
didn't
and
seem to
how
make
do
any
you open
difference
it?
whether I looked at it on. It doesn't matter. It's just how the file is saved in that app that or the app that where you download it from. It's saved that way. I mean, there's
Oh, and
nothing
which
you can
app
do
did you
about it.
use?
I used the link that I was given. What is it? Z something? Z Library.
Oh, I think I never actually heard of that.
That was
I'll
what
look
the
into
link
it.
took
Thank
me
you.
to. That's what the link took me to, and I just had to improvise to get it. But I got it. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. S5E's got a 10.5-inch screen, so I can see it very clearly.
It's called the Z library.
That's what the link is on the event.
Okay. Oh, is
On
it?
the
Oh,
event,
I'm
when you
sorry, I
click
didn't
it,
even know.
it's on the event. There's a
Oh,
link to the.
that's well, yeah, but that's the Toronto. I didn't do that. That was Darren.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
there's a Toronto event for this as well.
That's why. Was there another link for it or something?
Yeah.
Another source?
I'm no, Darren put that on. I have no idea what that link was, but
Yeah.
yeah, Darren did that.
Okay. Well, I made it work. I'm used to things like that, so.
Yeah. I've got a question, David and Jay, since I've only seen the black and white. Is it just the black and white version colorized, or is it actually a different narrative?
I think. Wait, do you want to go ahead and? I got kind of a nuanced response to that, but I can let you take it, David, if you want.
You're asking, is it a different narrative?
Yeah, I mean, is it the same thing, just colorized, or is it somehow different in the colorized version from the original black and white version?
It's From Hell by Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell
So it's the
with
same
color.
thing, just colorized.
Yes.
So
Okay,
so
that's the answer.
so that's yeah, that is true. But the thing is, I think the color actually does change um some elements of the story for me.
Oh yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, like there were things that I interpreted quite differently reading the black and white versus the color.
Yeah, that can be an experience. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's for me. Yeah, I mean, it depends on. Do you have any specifics?
Yeah, so I think the beginning of one of the chapters I totally did not understand. I have to kind of go
Which one?
back. Um,
Well, I
yeah,
got it here.
let me find it. Let
Yeah,
me
go ahead.
find it first.
Okay.
Give me some time, but go. Just keep talking. I'll find some time to interrupt when I find the thing that I'm looking for.
Uh, yeah. Well, I think what I said the first time we met was I haven't done a discussion group about a fictional book before. So this is a bit of an experiment for me. I'm happy with the way it's been going so far. Anne's been here now twice, and we're glad to go over this. This is certainly a rich work. This is a rich, a deep novel worth reading and talking about and discussing. Um, I don't have an agenda. I don't have an idea in my mind about how I think this should go. If people want to discuss the book and discuss the philosophy in it, I'm fine with that. Or there are discussion groups where you use the material as a platform, as a launching pad to go off and talk about other things. And Anne and the other Alex was here last week with the three of us. And you know what? The whole time we were here, we didn't even talk about the book last week.
What did you guys talk about?
Well, we had fun just talking about every other stuff. You can use the material to launch off to discuss other things we want to talk about. I'm okay with that too. I don't have an agenda. I'm fine with that. But I would like for you guys to get what you would like to get out of being here and participating in the group. So just let me know. There's a lot here to talk about. I mean, this is a very rich work. There's a lot to cover and go over. There's a lot to explain. If Wayne, if you'd like to actually have, a full explanation of what you read, or we go over bit by bit what's going on. Here we are today, week 3. We're on chapter 5. We're already 100 and some pages in to this. I think the full thing is 500 and some pages.
Wow.
It's a hefty work, and it's worth it. It's worth it. As you all know, as you can all tell, there's a lot here. There's a lot to do. So just give me some guidance, and we'll see how this goes. What I want to do right now is I'm gonna see if I can share my screen here. If I want to do, am I doing that right? Whiteboard? Is a whiteboard. Is it whiteboard? No, it's not whiteboard. Share my screen. Advanced, basic, desktop, share. Okay, so
There
do
you
you
go.
see? Oh,
I
okay.
see From Hell, Master Edition.
Yeah, fully colorized. Okay, the Nemesis in
Okay,
black.
I don't have that one, but I bet it's cool. Mine's
Here we
black
go.
and white,
Well, this is okay.
but that's okay.
As I said, I mean, originally this was a black and white work, and well, I mean, this wasn't just arbitrarily done. Eddie Campbell colorized this himself personally, so this is the artist's intention. That
Yeah,
that the color is supervised by him, and it's is entirely authorized by Campbell. So I mean, he did it himself, personally by
excellent.
computer hand. So you can't go wrong. Um, so let's just start to get back to Jay's question. Yeah, we start what we are now in chapter 5, and we open with Mr. and Mrs. Hitler in Braunau, Upper Austria, at Hitler's conception, and upon Hitler's conception, a wash a wash of blood floods the Jewish district.
Like from The Shining, right?
Yeah,
I'm
suddenly
glad you explained that. I didn't get that when I read it. Of course, I didn't. But thank you. Thank you very much.
upon Adolf Hitler's conception,
Got it.
a
Now,
wash of blood
yep.
floods the Jewish
Excellent.
district.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's incredible. Yeah,
That's
I
really
mean,
wild. I like that. That's
at the exact simultaneous. Yeah,
really
that's amazing.
intense.
I'm gonna go to the
So that's Eva
annotation.
Braun. That's Eva Braun, I guess. Is that wasn't that his girlfriend?
No. Eva Braun was
Actually,
Adolf Hitler's wife.
Wayne, I'm
Oh,
actually
who is
curious
this?
because Wayne, so I'm actually curious. I also read the black and white edition, and I was just telling everyone here that I didn't see annotations in the black and white edition for those pages. Did you?
Tell me which edition you're reading, because I know this very specifically. There was the From Hell that were the editions that were published in the year 1991. They originally came out from the publishing company called Mad Love, and then was reprinted by Kitchen Sink, I believe. Now, if you check those editions, I'm telling you, man, the annotations were in the back. They're there.
Oh, I believe you. I believe you. I'm just curious as to if Wayne and I had the same experience of not having the annotations.
Well, this
present.
one, the first page is the it's it just starts out with a narrative about the stumbling block, and it talks about that, which is the lead into the.
I don't suppose you could share your screen if you have that
I
option.
wouldn't have a clue how to do it.
Okay, don't worry about it.
I'm actually viewing it on my. I'm kind of improvised here. I've got my tablet is where I put the text,
Gotcha.
the document, the book, so I could lock the screen so I could look at it right side up.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I'm talking to you on my my Galaxy Note 8.
Okay, sure thing.
It's only way I could get this to work.
Okay, sure thing.
So, but the first one shows like a ghostly looking character drawing in the middle of this, and then it starts off and says the stumbling block has been used like any entrance step to sharpen
Yeah,
knives
I know
on.
where you're at. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's what it. Yeah. Okay, and I didn't catch that. Didn't tell me that was Hitler. And who is that? Who's he banging there?
Okay, so let's do this. Let's keep
The
going.
annotation is
Let's
the
keep going.
annotation's at the end of the chapter. If you're
Here
Oh,
we
carrying
go.
the
It's
page.
the end of the chapter. Okay, I got
Here
you.
we go. Okay, so let's just go through this step by step. We'll figure this out step by step. Okay, so here we go. The rationale behind the scenes presented here is the somewhat resonant chronological coincidence that links the onset of the Whitechapel murders with the conception of Adolf Hitler. Born in April 1889, simple arithmetic places Hitler's conception sometime around the July or August of the previous year. For obvious reasons, I've chosen August in order to present the striking juxtaposition of a sudden, inexplicable wash of blood occurring in one of the world's most populous Jewish quarters at almost the precise moment that the future Reich Chancellor fused into being from the no doubt splendid genetic material of his mother and father. Given that very little documentary material exists concerning the intimate sex lives of Alois and Clara Hitler, the scene here is naturally invented, as is Frau Hitler's ominous vision. Incidental details such as location are accurate and are drawn from Hitler, A Study in Tyranny by Alan Bullock.
I don't have that page.
Okay, so well,
Interesting.
all right, well, we can go through
So that's
this.
why I was lost.
We can go through this.
I don't
Okay.
blame
Yeah,
you. I
So
was too.
yeah. All right. Oh, darn. Okay. Sorry if I.
you're in the master edition, so that must be the difference. It's got explanations as to what's going on.
So no, David was just saying that the version that we both read should have had it, but I don't know why we both aren't able to see it. I'll
Well,
go check after the meetup.
if you're doing this chapter by chapter, the start of the chapter is on page 5, and the annotations start on page 45. Yeah, or 46.
Not in mine.
Nah. Okay.
It's okay.
All right. What's the name of the file that you're viewing? From hell dash what?
Well,
The file itself. I mean, it's a PDF, right? What's the name of the PDF?
Well, I have to go.
Oh.
This is really, like I said, this is kind of a mess because I'm trying to do this. Let me see if I can do it now. From Hell by Alan Moore. From _hell _by _Alan _Moore _Eddie _Campbell 21012104. Let me see if I can. Let me just get out of it there and go back to the fact that it's upside down makes this whole thing really arduous to try to figure out exactly what's going on here. I mean, I've got that basic, that's all I've got is just that basic stuff there. And I have to find, I've got it. Yeah, I'm in, let's see if I can, okay, here we go. This is the file name. Like I say I'll leave out the underscores. From Hell by Alan Moore, Eddie Campbell. Then it's got 1210476 and it's got z-lib.org, which is Z Library where I got it. And that's .pdf. So that's what I have.
Okay.
Because that's the link that was on the event page.
Okay.
So it doesn't have the information. At least I can't find it. I mean, let's see if I click comments. No, that doesn't do anything.
How many pages are in the PDF? How many pages total?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
if you have a PDF, I mean, you're viewing it on a PDF
oh, here
reader.
we go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here it is. I just almost had it there. Well, I think it said 565. I'm trying to get it to come up. This is, like I say, this is really squirrely trying to do this since it's printed upside down and it doesn't, it's incomplete. 565 pages, I think is what it said, but I can't get it to get that to come up again. I'm on page 156. That's all I can see. But I just saw it for just a second there. Here we go. I'm on 157 of 565. So I have
Can you
565 pages.
can you advance to page a five? What did you say? 562
It's
pages.
got 565 pages. So
Go to page, let's say 550 for
okay.
just as an example.
Yeah. I got to go down to go up. Okay. Now I'm at the beginning, the very beginning.
555 or
And it
something
has
like
a
that.
page. It has pictures of the
Well, show it to the camera.
authors.
Could you show that to the camera?
Can you see that?
Go down to page 540, 535. Let's say 535. 535.
535. Okay, that's at the
Okay,
other end.
okay, okay. Keep,
I'm on page 1 now. I got to go back. I had a scroll bar here a minute ago. Now I got to find it again.
I've never owned a tablet.
Well, it's not my tablet. It's the file.
I
It has
don't.
nothing to do with my tablet.
Yeah, but I'm not familiar with. I can't advise what to do since I don't know.
Well,
I'm not
I've
familiar with them.
done the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
Those pages. All I'm saying is that explanation that you read is not in this book that I have. It's not there because I've scrolled through all these pages and I see no pages like that.
Okay.
Wait. I say that and then I just think I just found something. Okay. In the kind of in the middle of the book, looks like in page 5. It's hard to get the page. I'm on page 530.
What is it?
And it's
What do
got
you
a bunch of written stuff on each chapter 11.
Okay, read a sentence for me.
Now, I think I found it, but it's not laid out like yours. You said your annotations are at the end of each chapter. Mine aren't. They're all at the end of the. They're not even in any kind of order. Let's see. And I think it's backwards too. So as I go to, as I read from left to right, it goes down instead of up. If you just imagine trying to look in a mirror and that's what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
So what page? We're on page like 40 or something like that, right? Let me see if I can find page 40 and see what it says. I'm trying
Or
to get
maybe
to it.
Wayne could just follow on your screenshot, David.
Yeah.
It sounds like he needs to get a different PDF.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but this is the only one I had.
If you Google around, you'll find a number of them.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
if
it's
had I
also
known this-
fine. Yeah, I think it's also fine that Wayne doesn't have the annotation. I'd be interested in seeing his perspective on the book without having
Right.
the influence of the annotation.
Yeah, this is not a very good way to do it. It's the best. It's what was on the event page, and that's what I got. So
Yeah, but that's
don't let that hold up the discussion. I don't mean to do that. Y'all go ahead and talk whatever you want to talk about because I have not a clue here, but I'm enjoying the heck out of this. I really, despite that, don't worry about it.
right.
I'll do whatever. If y'all got good versions and you can read it, just explained it. That's great because I had no way of knowing what that all meant.
Right.
I just kind of went with it. That's why it was in German, right? Because that's his mom and dad. He's being conceived. Is that what you were saying? Is that the conception of Hitler? as a baby?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Oh, okay. See, that's great. Now that you can just explain that along, that'll be loads of help. I'm not trying to be difficult here. I'm trying
Yeah.
to, y'all are doing great.
No.
You just know what I've got here, and I'm just trying to. I did the best I could by locking the screen so I could even look at it in the right perspective. So
Yeah.
we're good. We're good.
Now,
Yeah, that is this is Darren's fault. And
I'm not blaming anybody. No, nobody has.
if we do this again, I'm gonna have to email Darren and tell him to knock it
It's
off.
okay.
He's
now,
I'm enjoying
done
it.
something
I'm
wrong
enjoying
here.
it. Believe me, this
yeah.
this is just great.
Believe it or not, I started downloading that PDF 7 minutes ago, and it's still like 55 seconds left to go. Because
Yeah.
I wanted to check it myself, and wow, this is
Yeah.
slow.
Well,
We've got a
it's kind
new
of.
participant. Hello, you.
I'll find another version of it. I'll Google it and try to find it so I can be better prepared for the next time. So, but
Well,
it's
I'm glad you're interested enough to keep joining this group.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I got into this meetup thing accidentally with a group. I thought I was looking for philosophy groups, and I found this group. I'm in the Dallas, Texas area. I found a group that was called Fellowship of Free Thought, and I read their mission and everything, and I thought, well, this is right up my alley. I'm a free will rationalist, and it was like a group that uh, their mission was to avoid dogmas and base things on rational analysis and all
Oh
that. I thought
wow, Wayne, is that what you're reading?
that was that. Well, yeah, I read that kind of stuff all the time, but that's where I
No,
started.
no, I mean I'm
When I
looking
got
at
into
the
the
name
group, they
screen.
turned out to be an
No,
atheist group. They're one of the largest
uh,
atheist groups in the country. But it's
are you
interesting to
looking
me.
at?
So I got into it and got friends
He's
with some
not
of those
looking,
folks,
Jay.
and
He's
then I
not
found
looking.
these other
Jay, it doesn't
philosophers.
matter. Jay, it doesn't
It's,
matter.
but
I
I'm
found
just I'm so astonished. I can't
Uh-huh.
believe it's like that. That's amazing.
This is Darren's fault. This is Darren's fault.
I
don't pick on me
applaud
too
your
much.
persistence, Wayne. That
I'm
is
very forgiving.
commendable.
I'm a very forgiving person. I
I'm
don't take
gonna
I
I'm
try
gonna email Darren on this
I
one.
try to get along with everybody and accept everybody's points of view, and that's the reason I also deal with evangelical Christians on a regular basis in the political arena, and I kind of
But
annoy them a
yeah,
lot of
these are
times.
the annotations.
So
I mean, they're on the
I have a lot
wrong
of different viewpoints and a lot of things,
going in the wrong direction, but it's page 49 to page 540. Those are and that looks to me like they were there. They're all of them. They're there.
yeah.
They're
Well,
in
I'll
this is an impossible PDF to read. And
but you're helping.
I'm
I
going to email
appreciate it.
Darren about this. But
It's
they're
okay.
there. They are definitely there.
All I got to do is get to the right chapter. I'm
If
on with.
if you had Adobe Acrobat, the editor version, you could just select the whole thing and rotate it counterclockwise 90 degrees, and it would be fine.
Well, it wouldn't change the page orders because the
Okay,
annotations are in the middle
so
of the book.
now that that's taken care
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
let's
It's okay.
let's go back to this.
Let's do it. Let's
All
do it. Let's
right,
talk
all
about the
right,
book.
all right, all right, all right. I don't suppose anybody here speaks German. Let's say hello. We got a new participant. Wait, did if I stop sharing? Yeah. Um, iPhone. If you're there, if you just want to listen, that's fine by me. But I'm willing to interact with you if you'd like to. Did you have you been here before? Last week or 2 weeks ago?
No, no, I
Okay.
haven't.
Okay. Well, if this is we're now on chapter 5. So if you want to just listen in, that's fine by me. If you want to contribute, it's up. This is really pretty loose. There's no real. I don't think there's any real agenda here. I just wanted to start a group to talk about the book. Okay, so
Now, David, I assume
Yes.
the nexus with Hitler is that he was actually born in the year that this 1988. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the okay, to go back to this. Okay, so
Born in
Hitler was
April
born April
1889
1889, so that means he would have been conceived either July or August.
Right.
So
of the
to
previous year.
correspond with the event here, this will be in August. Alan Moore did a great deal of research
Yeah.
for this book, and it's all annotated here. Now he has this sequence which contrasting the East End and West End lifestyles of Polly Nichols and William Gull. Why does it keep doing that? There we go. All right. Now I find I depending on your taste, but I find this fascinating. Now, especially in the color edition, you can definitely see the difference given that what Campbell does here is he changes medium. I mean, it's astonishing. He does this in different media. He does the Gull panels in I don't know anything about art, so I'm not an artist, so I don't know anything about it. But it's obvious he's doing this in a wash. Yeah,
Mhm.
and he's doing the Polly Nichols panels in pen and ink. And
Wow.
yeah, the same pages, but he's doing mixed media
Yeah, it's amazing.
in this. Oh yeah,
Interesting.
it's incredible.
By the way, I just looked up, and yes, Jack the Ripper's first victim, Marianne Nichols, was August of 1888.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I guess Moore just kind of took that and wove that into his narrative,
Mm.
the Hitler conception.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's incredible. It's incredible because he puts everything that you could possibly put in. I mean, the Elephant Man, and there's so many celebrities. There's so many cameo guest appearances that are going to pop up here. Every celebrity, is going to walk on
Put him
stage.
in, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had the Elephant Man last chapter. Actually, in this one too. We're going to get to that.
Now, the movie The Elephant Man was popular when Moore was writing this originally.
Hmm.
So, yeah, he kind of threw in everything with the kitchen sink that kind of came down the pike.
That was John Hurt, wasn't it? John Hurt was
I believe so.
yeah. Um,
So it was kind of on everybody's mind, is what I'm saying. It was in the popular culture, so to speak.
sure, sure. So you get the contrast, but the very rich wealth that Gull had to live in, and the utter poverty that the girls had to live in. The contrast, it's contrasted, dual by the art presentation. I'm the kind of person who gets enthralled by something like that, where you take it to the next level. You take that level of detail
Yeah.
with your presentation. Um, and now with the color, from reading it in black and white, now with the color, it really pops. You
Yeah.
really get
Yeah. It
the
really
the
does.
the rich, luxurious brush strokes that Campbell used for the
Yeah.
wash is great here. Now, this is great because these girls were homeless. And it was illegal to sleep on the street, but to get around that, they had to sleep like this, where there was a rope keeping them upright outside against the wall while they could, sleep as long as they were upright. It's just horrible. It's just really horrible. but they were homeless. They couldn't, and of course contrasted with the rich luxury that Gull lived in. I
Has
mean,
anybody ever done that? Sleep while sitting upright?
well, I mean, you can do it. I mean, it's certainly not.
I did it one time. I ended up in the train station in let's see, I think it was wasn't Salzburg. It was in Austria. I'll think of it in a minute. Oh, it was in Prague, uh, and I got there kind of late in the evening, which is not a thing to do. And it was in the train station. And that's when the time when all the hookers and stuff. It's just crazy. And all the hostels were full.
Yeah.
So these two other gals with me, a rainy night. And so we went to the train station. We took turns keeping each other. One person would watch out for the cops and wake everybody up when the cops come by because it was the same rules. You can't sleep on the street. You can't sleep in the train station, but you can sit there and as long
Yeah,
as you're
yeah,
awake, you're okay. But it's a challenging thing. I can just imagine how torturous that was to do that on a regular basis.
yeah, yeah. So
You know, David, when you're looking at, for example, after the picture you're looking at, that one in the original black and white manuscript, it almost is the identical frame with just color added. But when you go to
right.
the next frame where Dr. Gull is getting out of bed,
Yeah.
it's clear he completely redrew it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Oh, uh, let
It's
me.
still a figure getting out of bed, but it's completely different.
I wonder if I can. Because I do have both. Is everybody seeing the black and white that I'm now looking at?
Well, it looks red and white. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
And see how that's different? It's the same, but he completely redrew that panel. Whereas the preceding panel, it almost looks like he took the original, which looks like a woodcut the way it's hatched, and just,
Okay.
colored it.
Yeah, no, this is interesting enough that let's see. So there is that one. Let's see if we can uh hmm. Now, it's true that Campbell did do some redrawing. That is true. This
Yeah.
one specifically, well, maybe. I'm not
Yeah. It's
completely sure.
redrawn and colored, but the preceding one just looks like the original was colored,
If I
color
click
was added.
if
It's
I
pretty.
click back and forth, do you guys see the difference? If I'm clicking back and forth on my computer.
I
Yes?
see it.
Oh, you can. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, it's possible. Yeah, when you look at his face, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's true that Campbell did redraw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and look at the preceding one, however, the
Oh,
one where she's up sleeping against the wall.
okay.
Now flipping back there, those look like the same. I don't know. Actually, that look isn't that one looks different, a little different too. Let's flip back to the colorized version.
Potentially. Potentially. Okay.
Oh, I don't know. That one looks very similar to me, unlike the guy getting out of bed.
Yeah, I think it is true Campbell did redraw, but I don't think he extensively redrew. I think it
No,
was
no.
um, mostly just adding color
Yeah,
and making corrections where necessary.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah, but I'm along with you. I also find this fascinating.
yeah.
But let's do this. Okay, to go back now to where I was going to go with this was. All right. During the period in question, the cheapest form of overnight accommodation was that which Polly is shown resorting to here. For a penny, those in need of rest and shelter could sleep sitting up in a row against a wall with a clothesline strung across in front of them to stop them from falling forward in their sleep. In the morning, the wake up call would be provided by the simple expedient of the lodging housekeeper untying one end of the line and allowing everyone to collapse. This is the origin of the colloquial expression, "I'm so tired I could sleep on a clothesline." Oh my. Yeah, that's just terrible. And this is really a great, I mean, it's just such a great portrayal and obvious commentary on the social iniquities of the time, and not that anything has really changed all that much today. I mean, it has changed obviously, but we're still, we're still a society of haves and have-nots, and that hasn't changed. Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't see see the difference between the two lifestyles, and not feel it in your heart. Not your heart breaks for, you know, uh, well, yeah, the social injustice of it all, and
Yeah.
this is what good art is supposed to do. This is what good fiction is supposed to do. It's supposed to give you that kind of empathy for people, um, who are very clearly, obviously, in a dire condition of life, and it's such a tremendous contrast here between the two, and I love that it's mirrored in the way Campbell presents the art. A lesser artist would have just all done it in one way, but
It almost looks to me like the one where the guy's sitting on the side of the bed, a couple, you just passed it up a little higher, a little higher. That one.
I can't hear you. You're breaking up. Yeah, I can't hear you at all. You're breaking up, Anne. But look at those flowers. He didn't even draw. I mean, he didn't even ink it. It's all just color. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And the detail on the bed frame. This is the sort of thing I get obsessed with. Yeah, I'm sorry, Anne. You're breaking up a bit. I can't hear you. Look at Gull's reflection in the mirror. I mean, that is very, very elegant. Just the art style of it all. And how they had to wash using the cattle trough. Yeah, terrible. And the only food they could eat. Okay. As I said 2 weeks ago, I mean, people might want to, focus on the meaning of it all, and the philosophy of it all, because we're all coming from philosophy groups. Um, I can do that. I mean, Moore packed a lot of, real serious thinking into all this. Okay, so now we have three tiers. Gull and Nichols, Gull and Nichols, Gull and Netley, and as they go through their day, and Gull begins the planning of what's going to be the first murder. And he instructs Netley to buy her some token, hat or scarf, that we may know her by. This sovereign should suffice. And here we have John Merrick, the Elephant Man, making his second appearance. But this is important because this introduces the concept of the Hindu god Ganesha, who was the elephant god in Hindu religion, to bless a important procedure that you're to begin upon. You start by giving your salutations to Ganesha. And how do you do that if you're not in India and there aren't any elephants around? You do that with John Merrick. That's amazing. Yeah. And now, the one thing that I like is, given you might notice, it's just when I said, oh, if you were here 2 weeks ago, when I said I always think of comics as like music, and what you see here is each panel is like Well, you could either call it a bar or a beat, but maybe a beat is best. But it's you see, it's just this pulse, this rhythmic pulse of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, over and over again. You get first gull, then nickels. 1, 2, 1, 2, like a checkerboard pattern. 1, 2, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. And then when the dialogue starts in the chapter, you still are the same, but it works in comics in the way that it wouldn't work in film. If you did this as a movie, if you did this, it wouldn't work the same way at all because it's just the panel are on the page and you can visually see it. But if you did the same thing in film in movies, you would just have to you cut back and forth. And you could, but it wouldn't be the same effect. It wouldn't be the same effect at all because these are clearly, obviously, not the same amount of time because there's dialogue. So the dialogue is going to make each one of these panels a certain length of time. You understand? But when you look at what's going on with Polly, there's no dialogue. So even it's just a quick shot. It's just one shot. I mean, it's going to be like what, a couple of seconds if it were a movie, and it would completely ruin the rhythm. You can't just have a one shot of Polly without dialogue and then go back to, Gull and Netley talking to each other. And that would be, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And then you'd have to cut back to Polly for another quick shot. And there would be no rhythm at all to that, right? It would not work at all.
Literally,
But in a
you could
comic book, it works.
you could literally split the screen. Just like
Well,
how the
it still
comic
wouldn't
books have
work
it.
because the hold on, let me do this for everybody. No, just for one person. I'm sorry. I'm
I've
sorry.
actually seen movies that do that.
I'm sorry about that. It would still wouldn't work because the dialogue and the other dialogue less
I mean, we also have examples of graphic novels adapted into film that literally does that.
view would be taking place over different times. You would have to add additional pictures. I'm trying to do two things at once, and I'm not good at multitasking. You would have okay. So if I go back to you, there you go. Anyway, it's not a critically important thing, but my friend Daniel was asking to be join in here. So hello, Dan.
Thank you. Hello. Appreciate it.
So if you had a comment, you can do so now. Anyway, yes, you could, but you can agree, Jay, that it would be different. It would not be the same. It would be a different experience going on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
different mediums have
You
different ways of
could,
expressing.
but in order to do the poly part, you'd have to add a lot more, at least 15 seconds more than just a single shot. Anyway, the point I want to get here, and let's not lose the point, is the back and forth, 1, 2, on, off, back, forth, like a checkerboard pattern. That's an important effect because it gives you kind of like this hypnotic pulse, trance effect in reading. it's like it's like a musical pulse, and it increases the ominence, it increases the tension, it increases the like it's building towards a climax, which it is. Over the course of this chapter, we're building up to what we're gonna lead up to. And by doing this kind of steady monotone pulse, you're just ratcheting up the ominence, I feel. I think that's important to note. I think that is important to note. And it's relentless. It just keeps going. Because we're not going to say that either one of these two threads is more important than the other. That the Gull thread and the Polly Nichols thread are more, one's more important than the other one. They're both important because ultimately they're going to converge, and that's why we're following them both as simultaneously as we can through comics. I mean, if you did this in split screen, Jay, on a movie, I don't know about you, but I the effect would not be the same. To me, it would be a distraction. To me, all I would see is that I know, somebody in an editing bay in a you know had to edit that together to get that screen effect. I don't know if I would be able to get past the contrivance of the split screen if this were a movie. I don't think I would be. Yeah, you're right. I've seen split screens done before on movies. To me, it's just the contrivance of the knowing that there had to be a technology solution to that would be just so very prominent in the viewing experience that it would be intrusive. But that's erased when it's a comic book. Yes? No? You think? I know that
It's a
there's an
different effect.
editor in an editing bay who did that split screen, and it would just be so very clearly obvious to me.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm not
fascinating way to tell a story.
qualified editor.
But in a comic book, it's invisible, and you see the Gull thread and you see the Nichols thread. It's just perfectly there. So anyway, what Gull is doing here and what Moore is doing is he's introducing the concept that because because you've read the previous chapters, Gull is constructing a larger magical ritual through the murders. And he begins the murder by giving salutation to Ganesha, which he has done by visiting John Merrick, the Elephant Man. So by giving his obedience and his fealty to the Hindu god Ganesha, this begins what will be the magical ritual that he's about to embark upon. Okay, so he meets with Sir Charles Warren. And in the annotations, if you read those, well, obviously not everyone has, but where we see, well, maybe this would be page 14. Because I'm not sure if I remember exactly. So let's go back. The suggestion that Warren was warned in advance of the Whitechapel murders. So this comes from Stephen Knight's Jack the Ripper, The Final Solution, but he did not interfere due to the Masonic protocol. So again, it's just conjecture. We don't know that for sure, but it makes for a good story. So this was date of his retirement was August 31, 1888. And there's some detail about Charles Warren. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back. Okay. So basically, this is an answer. This is Moore's answer. So why didn't Warren investigate the murders?
Together, yeah.
And Gull is basically intimidating Warren, saying, "Will no one help the widow's son? Is stay out of this, and if you don't, there will be consequences." And Warren says, "I'll do as you ask," and makes the arrangements. And of course, Gull is doing this for one reason, but as far as Warren is concerned, he knows what's been going on with Prince Eddie and the illegitimate child that we read about in the chapter 1. Okay, and so I like this. This is the vision that Polly has of the fire, and Netley gives her the black bonnet. And there was this Egyptian exhibition at I think the museum, London Museum, at that time.
David,
So yeah, go ahead.
I hope I don't break up, but one thing that confused me when he said, "Won't someone help the widow's son?" is Eddie was actually Queen Victoria's grandson. His father was Edward VII, and Edward VII was not dead. So his mother was not a widow. Queen Victoria
Yeah.
was. So I don't know if that was just, I can't imagine it was just a slip up.
Wasn't you? Well, let's see. I'd have to go back to chapter 1 where they explained the origin of that phrase.
Yeah, you're right.
I think the origin of the phrase was long established. It's a Masonic phrase.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
traditionally. Yeah, so maybe it doesn't exactly match. It doesn't exactly fit what was going on with Eddie, but
Yeah, because it was a little confusing in those earlier chapters. At one point, Gull is talking to Queen Victoria, and then at another point, he's talking to Alexandra, Eddie's actual mother, who's a much younger woman. That's when, she says, "Oh, we have to take this to Victoria," and then Victoria's the heavy. But yeah, that was a little confusing. But there are a lot of threads to this.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, the annotations do help. The annotations help a lot. You really do have to read both. Yeah, on the one hand, you could say, well, it should all just be in the fiction itself. It should all just be in the narrative. And well, okay, but yeah, I think it enriches the experience.
It's like one of those CDs they used to put out of movies where they had the director and actors actually commenting on the movie.
Yeah.
As you watched it in the Criterion collection. And it was interesting. It's always interesting, to get that behind the scenes input.
Oh yeah, they still do. They still do director's commentaries. Yeah, they still do those. Yeah. Yeah. Movies and television shows. Yeah. Now the details are astonishing because Polly Nichols did indeed wear a black bonnet on the night she was murdered, and it was said that nobody had ever seen her wear that black bonnet before. And this is an explanation. Why was she wearing that? That had nobody ever seen her wear that before. So according to this, Netley gave it to her. But of course, and yeah, interesting enough, there was indeed a fire at the docks that night. A fire broke out at the docks, and that's historically accurate. Who knows if it was that as huge as this, but it certainly does give a certain contrast when you see this blaze of yellow and red here. But yeah, there was a fire that broke out on the docks that night, amazingly enough. Green grow the rushes, though. And then they meet, Gull and Polly Nichols. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder how quickly to pass through this. To me, I think a lot of what I admire is the craft of how Moore paces his stories. I mean, I'm just scrolling through this very quickly, so it's very difficult to get that. But you see, if you read this, which I hope you did, read this at the time, as I say, the slow, steady pace and these establishing panels of the mood and the atmosphere of this dismal night here in Whitechapel. And the way Campbell draws it, with extreme close-ups of these hands as they very methodically, very mechanically perform this ritual. It's just such an eerie, creepy. Something's about to happen. And both Moore and Campbell just so very slowly, drip by drip, panel by panel, unspools this true horror that's going to unfold before your eyes. And they're not they're just so masterful in how elegantly they present it to you. You're in their power, and they're just going to give it to you, inch by inch, drip by drip, and so masterfully controlling the tension here, and how Campbell so masterfully controls the black and white, the chiaroscuro. I mean, this panel is very nearly almost entirely black. I mean, you just the ominence of it, you just know something's about to happen. And the only white that you see are these, the figures. Now it's the faces and the markings on the clothes of these two figures, contrasted against the nearly black background. I mean, it's yeah, it's a performance. It's a performance. And then a sudden burst of color of the yellow and red of the fire, and engulfing the tiny figure at the bottom. I am like there's forces, chthonic forces beyond her control. She's in control of nothing. She's as we've seen throughout this chapter. She's in control of literally nothing in her life. She's in control of nothing economically, socially, culturally, physically. These are forces beyond her control. And what better way to portray that in one single panel? This fire is raging, a conflagration beyond that's bigger than she is. that's beyond any ability that she could ever possibly have, and she's lost, awash in this ocean of forces, beyond her making. And there you have it in one panel, and
Yeah,
it's about to engulf her entirely.
yeah. It's just as powerful in black and white too, which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not in three tones. All the bottom part is white, and the part up there that's sort of a burgundy is black, and all the rest of it's white. It's almost more impressive in a way in the black and white.
Well, I can go down here. Hey,
I felt that way about a lot of the
yeah.
black and white panels
Chapter
as well.
523, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, the black and white is certainly much more impressionistic. It's certainly much more you have to fill in a lot of the gaps. You have to add a
Yeah.
lot of imagination to it. And that's good too.
It's almost more surreal
Yeah,
in a shot like this.
we're getting more towards abstraction. Yeah, we're getting more towards
Exactly.
iconography.
Yeah. I hate to say it though, it kind of reminded me of that the burning of Atlantis scene in Gone with the Wind.
Okay, all right.
A
Sure.
big wall of fire, except it's Rhett Butler and what's her name against the fire.
And Moore and Campbell just do not let up. I mean, now here's the lone figure of Polly Nichols in this dark, unforgiving night, just walking along in the darkness and singing "Green Grow the Rushes O." And we have a shot of her. We have a shot of the cityscape, and then a shot of her feet. Um, just just beat by beat. Every panel is like a musical beat, like beat by beat, beat by beat. And out of nowhere we have, and it looks to me like a mixture of the two styles that we've been noting throughout this chapter. Now we have a mixture of both pen and ink, and Campbell adds the wash effects. I mean, it might be a Photoshop, but it's clearly the London fog
Yeah,
that Gull suddenly uh, bursts through.
yeah, and he could do a lot more than it was in the original black and white, which was kind of crude almost.
Yeah. Uh,
For example, in the original black and white, you can't see that the carriage is coming towards you. That you don't even see the horse. The horse's head becomes apparent because of the introduction of that
oh, there
foggy.
you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so there's the black and white, and there's the color. Okay. Yeah, but I do
So
like the clear. I mean, even the breath coming out of the horse. That's incredible.
and I don't know if you read the script that's at the end of the chapter where Alan Moore described in like excruciating detail about the approaching of the carriage and
Mm.
the treatment of the horse. Um, I think that lends to the reinterpretation of that particular panel
Mm,
quite well. Yeah, I thought that was a
Yeah.
very interesting um, example of how the black and white and the color plays
yeah,
on each other.
yeah,
I love reading the annotations and I love reading the scripts. Yeah, there's a lot in the scripts. There's a lot in the scripts where he goes into detail about what the intention was. Yeah. Um, yeah, I love like Campbell's framing, the way he frames. Here you have Polly in the foreground, and you have Gull, yeah, very neatly placed in the panel. Uh,
You know, one thing I thought was a little bit, at least up to this point in the story, lacking, perhaps he brings it out in subsequent chapters, is now this isn't I mean, we're told Gull's motivation is his involvement in, the whole Masonic thing.
all right.
But obviously Gull has taken even that to a place that's completely dark and different.
Yeah.
And they had those scenes from Gull's childhood, when his father died and his mother had to take over the canal boat business, I think it was. And I, you know, in our times now, we would be looking more for a psychological motivation.
Yeah.
Whereas in this narrative, it's a conspiratorial motivation. It's as though Gull is sane. He's just part of this overarching higher echelons of society conspiracy to cover up Eddie's malfeasances.
Right.
So, it's kind of a different angle on this. Gull seems, like I said, sane, but he's not. He's in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if that comes out further. I mean, Netley, or whatever his name is, the coachman's, is a little bit of a counterbalance to him, because Netley obviously is like, what
Yeah.
we're doing is really weird,
Yeah.
He throws up periodically and all that sort of thing. But Gull continues. Now I'm wondering, in the annotations, was Gull an actual historical figure?
Oh, yes, yes. You definitely should read the annotations. I
Yeah.
mean, yes,
So he
no,
was.
William. No,
Okay.
everybody. No, there's nobody who was created here. Alan Moore did the research.
Okay.
The story itself is fiction, but no, he didn't create any of these people. William Gull, uh, uh,
Looking at Wikipedia now.
William Withey Gull, first diagnosed anorexia, I believe.
So I started reading this. I think it's prudent to remember that this is all speculation upon speculation, and not to like take anything that we're reading in this book too literally. And I don't think I don't think Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell like intended for this to be the authoritative source for exactly what the Jack the Ripper lore should be.
No, I don't think he would say that you should consider this as what actually happened, because no, that's ridiculous. No, no. Yeah, William Gull named anorexia nervosa, and he did many researched into paraplegia and myxedema, and he has descendants actually. You're probably you're probably slandering him by saying that he was Jack the Ripper, which wasn't
Well,
Moore's original idea, by the way.
yeah, that's what I was just reading in Wikipedia, that was a conspiracy theory that came up in the 1970s for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, that was from Stephen Knight's book,
Mm.
and it's a great story, but it's pretty clearly not true. Yeah. I keep coming back here. I wanted to point out the rhythm of each page. It's three, but it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, one big one at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, one big one at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, one big one at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, one big one at the bottom. It's like it's. This is why I say it's music. It's a pulse. It's a rhythm. And it just adds to the tension, it adds to the suspension, but it also more than that, the reason why you do you know, if you read if you read a Marvel comic, you know, with Spider-Man, you know, you see pictures of Spider-Man jumping around and the panels are all over the place, right? And people shooting lasers, you know, if you read the Avengers, you know, it's people, you know, Iron Man shooting ray blasts and everything's happening, right? Okay, it's just a bunch of pictures. But what you do here, when it's like a checkerboard, 3x3 grid, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's like a pulse. It's like, and the artifice of the drawing vanishes. The artifice of what you're reading vanishes. You no longer see the artifice. You're immersed in the story, as opposed to, you know, superhero comics where it calls attention to itself. It calls attention to the drawing, and you're supposed to go, wow, look at that effect. Wow, look at how that looks. It's great. Wow. You know, this is totally the opposite. You see, you're not supposed to see it at all. You're supposed to be in the story by that kind of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It vanishes. You no longer see that you're seeing something that somebody drew. You're in the narrative, right? It's a very different approach to a reading experience, reading a comic book. And again, not better or worse, it's just different. And for a different purpose. And that also increases the tension, increases the yeah, the horror that's about to commence. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and one big one at the bottom to sort of underscore it all. I think Will Eisner, if you know who Will Eisner is, he created the Spirit, the famous character in the 1940s. But Will Eisner said that every page, every individual comic book page is itself a larger panel. Every page should be considered a larger panel in and of itself, and it should be constructed the same way. And I think there's something of this here, and what Moore and Campbell have done. If you look at every page, if I even reduce it further, I don't know if I can. Yeah, if I did that, yeah, it's kind of the same. There's a lot of information at the top, and then an underscoring information at the bottom to ground it. A lot of information, narrative information, and then an underscoring panel at the bottom. Narrative information, and then an underscoring panel at the bottom. Narrative information, and then an underscoring at the bottom.
Do you have a hard copy, David, of the book?
I do, yeah, not with me, but I do. I have
Oh, that
on
must be,
paper, yeah.
that's awesome. Is it like a regular comic book where it's illustrations on both sides of the page, or
Oh yeah,
just one side? Both sides.
yeah.
That's awesome. I bet it's awesome to actually hold it in your hand and look through it.
I've got a really good edition. Yeah. I mean, go to Amazon. You can probably still pick up a paper edition. There's some good ones out there. But now we go, this is just I'm go here. Okay. Now here Campbell keeps the camera steady. It's just Gull and Polly sitting in the coach. And the camera doesn't move. It's just the two of them. one by one panel at a time, until you just forget what you're looking at, and you're in the story, you're in what's happening. It's like a play, when you're watching a play, you eventually you tune out, the floorboards and the lights at the bottom and at the top, or the curtains to the side. You just tune it out after a while. After a couple of minutes, you're in the play. But that's because it doesn't change. If it's constantly calling attention to itself, it's a distraction. And on this page, Campbell slowly changes the angle, and he slowly closes in on Gull and Polly. And even in the color, this is the color version, but there's very, very muted colors. I mean, it's almost black and white. He really does
Interesting,
want.
though. He
Yeah,
kind of does what I would guess he would have done. The rose is red.
Yeah,
which
that's
you don't
true.
get in the black and white.
You
But
get
of course, that and the neckerchief, I assume those are all, they're symbols for blood.
Yeah, the drops of the roses here are the only drops of red. Yeah, that's very nice. Very nicely done. Yeah. But he just wants to give the claustrophobic effect of these two people, and this is not going to end well. And it's so moody, and Campbell knows not to give you a bunch of color here. It's just black and white. There's the brown hair and
And of
these.
course, the roses are going to be bringing you up to,
Yeah.
the Elephant Man.
Yeah, that's
The
true. It's coming. Here we
storyline.
are. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And now, yeah, you got the red splash, the drops of red roses here, dropped onto the page, and John Merrick, the Elephant Man, right there.
So Merrick had in the narrative, the narrative is that Merrick had actually appeared there at the request of Gull for this
Right.
mystical significance
Right. Yeah.
in his role in his incarnation as Ganesh,
Right.
which is odd because actually Ganesh is a symbol of happiness in a lot of Indian ritual. He's like the jolly elephant god, and he's always laughing and smiling. He's chubby and cute. So not
Yeah.
here.
Well, from Gull's point of view, I mean, he's doing he's doing what he thinks is a good thing. So so the idea here is that Polly Nichols was strangled before was strangled to death before she was knifed. There was bruising on her trachea, and so this was the explanation that he strangled her first before he started cutting. And I think that is consistent with what the autopsy showed. Gull did. I mean, Alan Moore did his research. So either she was unconscious or already dead by this point. And this sequence here, this is a long sequence, but very masterful because Campbell just picks a camera angle and he just locks it. He's not going to move for these like 8 or 9 pages, isn't it? Here on Brady Street. Oh, here we go. So Gull lets Netley give the first cut, and in the autopsy it shows the first cut was inexpert and glanced off her collarbone. And
Interesting that they did no colorization. I mean, this was a highly bloody scene.
yeah.
And there's no you would have thought between the black and white and the color, this would have been a place where he would have added red.
That's definitely the thing. Somebody's phone is beeping. Yeah, that's the thing that was noted that probably if any other artist other than Eddie Campbell were to have drawn this, they would have called attention to the horror of it. They would have called attention to the blood and the gore. Any other artist would have. But I think Campbell is a better artist than that. He by downplaying the guts and gore, that actually increases the horror. That actually makes it more horrific. It's very mechanical. It's very cold. It's very, just locking the camera and seeing what there is. You're not going to, uh, get distracted by the artifice of it, and that just is more chilling. You feel, oh, like what would it be like if you were actually present there? What would it actually be like? You're not seeing crazy camera angles or special effects. It would be like so surreal to see this in person, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
no, I agree with you completely. It has a quietness to it that
yeah.
you could picture, because if you were there, you would obviously be in the dark, we'd be in an alley, it would be relatively quiet, nobody else around.
Yeah, and you would feel the chill of it. You would feel the chill. This is actually, somebody, eviscerating a human body. And then, it's not splashy. It's no special effects, no sound effects. It's just what's actually happening, and you just see the viscerity of it. I don't know if that's a word, but
And of course,
visceralness of it.
and this harkens back to the first chapter, or I don't know what chapter it was, but talking about Gull's boyhood, where he
Yeah,
found the dead mouse and then
that's
took
right.
his heart out. So he's basically echoing that again.
That's right.
Um, is this in the annotations? Do they discuss? Is this indeed the case that the victim's heart was removed?
Yeah, yeah, we can go there definitely. If we okay. Okay. First cut was an expert and glanced off the collarbone. It was the second cut that almost severed the head completely. Um so I want to see, yeah, okay, it doesn't say exactly,
My
but
point being is, I'm guessing that this may have been a little bit of artistic license too, because as I recall reading about, the murders, it was horrific butchery.
yeah.
Whereas in this narrative, you don't see her head severed or anything like that. It seems like she's strangled, she's put down, there is some cuts, but then he surgically removes her heart. I don't know what he does with it. Does he take it? He doesn't, you don't quite know. Does he take it with him, or it's a little different, which goes in more with the
Hmm.
conspiratorial theme of it all, where these
Okay.
were ritual murders as opposed to just, statistic, probably sex driven butchery.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, okay, here it is. It says the mutilations detailed here are accurate and are as reported in various books. Jack the Ripper A to Z for one. Well, according to Moore, he followed what the actual autopsy showed had happened. So, in terms of the specific cuts and bruises, that do seem to be consistent that she was strangled, and what actually happened if he removed. Here. So if you're talking about this specifically, so Gull says there. Now let's see what we have, and he reaches in, and Is this supposed to be the actual heart?
Yeah, I think so, because again, that mirrors the earlier part of the narrative in his boat. That's what he does as a boy to the mouse or rat.
Okay. Okay.
And of course, that would be more ritualistically significant.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and then, of course, he makes that odd statement to Netley, "Did you see she was full of light?"
Yeah. She was full of light.
But you
Yeah.
don't really see what happens to the heart. It looks like does he put it back in her, or you don't really.
Yeah. Well, it could be that, yeah, that's what happens. I mean, it looks like, yeah, okay. He's putting it back in that panel, and then, yeah, it looks like that might have been the case.
Yeah.
So I jumped the gun. Now, at this point, this is where Campbell does the locking the camera down for these people who come across the body. Yeah, she's called just citizens. And then the first police come. Um, Again, yeah, very, very, very muted color, if any. Just the lamps they have. They weren't flashlights back then; they were lamps. And the cross hatching, but just bit by bit, bit by bit, beat by beat. I mean, it's more effective than constantly changing angles. A different, close up here and a long shot, and then we'll see them, talking down shot, up shot, middle ground, by constantly doing that, you're just constantly getting distracted by the artist drawing something new and interesting every time. But by doing it the same shot, every single panel, it's more immersive. It's less distracting. You're in the story.
The other interesting thing too is a few panels earlier when he shows just her body prone in
Mm,
a full cross page panel.
yeah.
Um, that is, I forget the name of what, but there's a famous like French classical painting that is famous for that perspective it's like the fallen Viking or something like that.
Mm.
But what Campbell is kind of doing here is giving the body by kind of, I think, by evoking that classical painting is not saying, oh, this is just a harlot's body on the street. He's giving it a certain heroism, heroic stature or classical stature,
Ah.
and some dignity to her, her remains there.
Oh, now that's interesting. That's very interesting, Anne. Here's another interesting thing is this now things after the murder, you notice this has been reversed. Remember what I was saying? It was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, big panel underscoring. But look at this page. You got a long one at the top and then 1, 2, 3. You see, like things have been inverted. The whole thing has been thrown upside down now. After this, all of reality is different. Yeah, I just noticed that right now. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's cool.
That is that's a good point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you see, these are things you gotta take your time. You gotta take your time to look at this and really eat this stuff up. Now I like this. This is the Constable Mizzen. Now, if you read the annotations where he explains he explains that there basically was no explanation for Mizzen. Uh, uh, Constable Mizzen later filed a report that had a lot of flaws and a lot of contradictions, and nobody knows why, and nobody knows what exactly was up with him. Alan Moore here is saying, was he in fact in on it? Was he a Mason? And nobody really knows for sure, but everybody agrees there was something funny about him. Something funny was going on there. Nobody knows what.
So
Yeah.
before we continue on to the postmortem and the autopsy, because I think something interesting is about to happen here, and I'd like to hear from Wayne, who hasn't been too active here. He mentioned something about Bertrand Russell, and I was trying to look at the timing of this, of the overlap between Bertrand Russell and the Jack and Ripper series of murders. And turns out Bertrand Russell was a young man when this occurred. And I find that to be particularly interesting. We're talking about here, this is the end of the Age of Enlightenment. And correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, Bertrand Russell was a pioneer in analytic philosophy. And he believed that statements that are not verifiable were worthless. And here we have this depiction of this man who is I'm talking about Dr. Gall. I'm not sure if you read the previous chapters, but we were just talking about this with Anne. It read a lot like Da Vinci Code, where random symbolisms were connected in freestyle in this sort of like, I don't know, in a very Da Vinci Code style way. And I just kept thinking about what Bertrand Russell would think about that. And looking at this panel, and then just what David was saying, what Anne was saying about how this almost seems like a reversal of reality occurring. And then you see Dr. Gull taking. I did not know what he was taking out of that woman's body, out of Polly's body. I went back and looked at the panel that Anne referred to when he was taking out the heart of the mouse, and I also couldn't see whether or not it was actually a heart that he was taking out of the mouse. But it is immensely clear that when he killed Polly, whatever he was taking out, in a kind of dramatic irony, he says that she was full of light, as a reference to this kind of like horrible reversal of the events that's happening, like almost parodying what's happening in the beginning of this chapter when Adolf Hitler is born. This kind of reversal of the scientific revolution that's occurring. And I was curious what you thought about that, because it's a very poignant point I think they're making here, is that this age of enlightenment, and then the oncoming scientific revolution, and it's about to manifest itself into nationalism, into Nazism, um, and Jack the Ripper as being the foresight, as the foreshadow of this. Did you have any thoughts on this?
In relation to
Because you
Bertrand
mentioned that you
Russell.
read Bertrand Russell, and I'm not
Bertrand
too
Russell
familiar
is a
with.
mathematician, but he was mainly a mathematician. He lived
He was.
he lived until the 70s. He didn't die, so he most of his philosophical works are based on rational deductive reasoning. So he does a lot of comparisons of deductive reasoning versus inductive reasoning, and tending
Oh, I
to,
see.
yeah,
Okay.
that's a lot of, because of course the inductive reasoning is what the scientific method is based on.
Oh,
And it's
right, right,
based on,
right.
the
Yes.
theory is that on like the deductive reasoning, you take a general accepted principle, something everybody agrees on, like geometry is used quite often for deductive reasoning. You take a generally accepted principle, and you have a theory, and then you have a generally accepted truth or principle, and then you have evidence that kind of supports that. So the most common example of deductive reasoning is all men die, and John is a man, so therefore John will die. So that's classic deductive reasoning. Whereas inductive reasoning is that all knowledge is gained. And I get back up on deductive reasoning. Knowledge is basically there. We have innate knowledge, which I think innate knowledge could be compared to traits or tendencies of even animals and stuff that have, like bears hibernate. Well, that's innate. They didn't learn that, but we have innate knowledge too, and that so we already have some built-in things that we build off of innate knowledge. But inductive reasoning, that all knowledge is gained by experience. So the inductive reasoning is that we have a theory, have a hypothesis, not a theory, but a hypothesis that something is true, and we're going to take a sampling of the population of something relevant to that, and then we're going to sample that and test it for various ways, and then come to a conclusion, an inference on that population, and apply it to that sample and apply it to the entire population, which, depending on how big your sample is going to be dependent on how reliable. And even at that, you can't really totally depend on it. So it becomes just a hypothesis without any real. So that's kind of what.
Yeah.
So most of that,
I was reading up on
we
Bertrand
were
Russell.
talking about this story
Be a
and how
influential
that
figure
I
in
was
analytics philosophy.
I was
wondering if you have
noticing
any insight
something.
into that.
One of the things you might find this interesting then in regard to Russell is that we're limited by our five senses, and everyone sees things differently, even the same object. For a table, for example, if five people are sitting in a room and looking at a table and they're all around the room, they all see the table, but they all see it differently. They see it, but it's the same table, but they have different perceptions of it. So that limits their account of it. So in these illustrations, it's particularly interesting telling a story this way, because I was listening to everything y'all were saying, and I was noticing the vantage point from which, and I like the discussion about the position of her body, and not only that, but it's taken from like right at street level, right down to the left. You're not looking down on her; you're looking across, right at a cross section. So the way you see her or any of these frames is from a certain perspective. And if you looked at it from a different perspective, you might see something different than what you see in each of these perspectives. So the perspective is, of course, we all see the same perspective in regards to these drawings, because we're all seeing the same drawing and it's the same perspective. So we could say we could probably all agree on that what we see, because we see it from the same perspective. But if we were to look at it in reality, we would see it from different angles, even if we're all standing next to each other. So he gives different views of these things. Like the next frame down, next three frames you can see the row house and everything, the body laying there. You're kind of looking down on it. So you wonder, where is the viewer standing, that they're kind of looking down on the body and looking across at those buildings. And the same with the next three frames. They're kind of looking down from somewhere. Where is the viewer looking from to that? And what significance does that have in regard to telling the story? So that's something Russell in several of his works does a lot of discussion on different perspectives and what you see when you look at something and how someone else sees it. Even though it may be the same object, you're going to see it differently just because you're in a different perspective. So I
Yeah,
didn't
that's a
know
very.
if you,
I like that.
yeah,
That's a
that's
very
something
good
I was
observation.
noticing as y'all were talking. I was looking at the vantage point of the frames, how interesting it was, how that, and especially the body. I thought when y'all were talking about that, I thought, wow, that's really cool because she was, you know, and I'm a photographer, so and that's really important in photography about, you know, getting things at different perspectives, different angles, different levels, to
So
set different moods and stuff as far as what you're
So I
seeing.
haven't heard from Daniel, and he actually posted up a really interesting link just now to deductive inductive reasoning. And in it, there's a quote by Bertrand Russell where he says that mathematics is the field where we don't know what we are talking about, or nor whether or not what we say is true. that's I thought that was exceptionally relevant here.
There's always a chance
Because
that even deductive
um,
reasoning, I like. It's
so
very honest because
yeah, I'm sorry, Wayne.
it's
I
based
was
on a bell
talking.
curve. On a
Wayne,
bell
I'm
curve.
sorry, I was talking. So the so the thing I'm seeing here, the thing I would like to see if people were of the like-mindedness about what I was talking about is the fact that does the does Dr. Gall's hallucination shed any kind of um his state of mind, does shed any kind of state about the socio-political nature or the world that he's living in, the times that he's living in right now. Is this what Alan Moore wants us to think about?
The hallucination.
Yeah, because he's obviously out of his mind.
We're gonna get deeper into that as we go.
Yes, we are, and that's why I wanted to kind of talk about this now because he's already like off his rocker, and but I was wondering if this 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 particular symbolism, you know, outside of him, because you know he's really a big fan of symbolism if you look at the previous chapters, but this particular symbolism and him like holding light coming out of Polly. I
Yeah.
was wondering if anybody like saw any kind. What did you what did people think about this particular symbolism? Is this a symbolism of something greater?
Uh, well, first of all, you know, yeah, I mean, Moore does not make it very explicit what's really going on. I mean, we've established that Gull did have a stroke and was suffering from aphasia and hallucinations and you know, that kind of visual light effect where you see things with light does happen in those kinds of strokes and those kinds of aphasic episodes. And yeah, that was happening. um, yeah, Gull did have a stroke. That's historically established. But yeah, Moore is saying that Gull is experiencing those kinds of hallucinations. Now, is he? Yeah, okay. Is he removing the heart or other organs, and he's obviously seeing light, you know. But beyond, he's saying that he's seeing light, but beyond that, Moore doesn't explicitly tell you what's going on. So you could say, on the one hand, you could have the interpretation, oh, yeah, it's just, you know, he is clearly hallucinating. But that is, you don't have to go with that interpretation that there's something else going on here. You could if you wanted to. But in terms of symbolism, I think.
So yeah, I mentioned this because Anne mentioned about the dignity of Polly in that frame, and
Yeah.
that's also what I was kind of focusing on as well. The fact that she was full of light
The,
in this kind of dramatic irony of her being slaughtered. Um,
I like that. I like that. I like that. Okay.
and
Okay.
and how does that relate to the birth of Adolf Hitler? Um, so so yeah, I was just thinking about whether or not this is a deliberate reference to what Alan Moore had to say about this particular period
There's,
in England's history.
if we wanted to, we could go very deeply into that. Yeah, I mean, sure. Here was a human being who was every bit as full of light and life and energy and potential as Gull was, as any other human being ever was or is or has been. And yeah, there's a very rich emotional human connection to that, to realize, yeah, she was full of light and life and energy and desires and wants and emotions. And yeah, and you could take that to, yeah, what a terrible thing murder really is, to extinguish that. But also, yeah, there wasn't any real difference between Polly Nichols and any other human being alive in London at that time or any other time in human history. She was every bit as much of a human being filled with light as anybody else. And therefore, even that underscores the social inequity of thinking that she was in any way different, because she was not. And that's a really excellent portrayal of that. Yeah, she deserved to be considered as human as anyone else.
Okay, on that note, I do have to go, but this was great. Thank you so much, David, and everybody else. It was a
Sure.
pleasure to meet you all. I'll see you guys next time.
Sure, Jay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And if we wanted to go in the symbolism direction, we could say, yeah, I mean, what Gull is doing is symbolically, well, he's doing a number of things. He's trying to establish, well, he's trying to establish the Apollonian dominance of reason and male energy over Dionysian female energy, and so on and so on. So there's symbolism there. There's a larger narrative symbolism that Moore is trying to establish, that that Gull and the Jack the Ripper murders are effectively birthing the 20th century. We're going to get very deeply into that as in chapters to come. And here, when the doctor arrives and he sees that the extent of how badly Polly Nichols has been damaged, and we're back to William Gull at the end, and a shot of John Merrick there at the end, and shot of Mr. and Mrs. Hitler. Well, they're building. All at the very. This is the last page. The very last page. We have all the threads coming together, and Gull goes back to his bed, having done his damage, and Polly Nichols and the fire that rages in the docks in Whitechapel.
Last shot is much more effective in color than it was in the black and white.
Let me go to the black and white. I've got that.
Okay.
Let me see if, yeah. Yeah, let's go back here. Oh, okay.
Because in the black and white, I didn't even catch that it was the reflecting the fire.
Okay, so if you see, it's probably too much. There we go. So we see, yeah, the fire's burning. If Campbell allows himself to indulge in a riot of color, it's in the fire panels
Yeah.
to give a tremendous contrast to
Yeah.
what else is going on, which which it's so disruptive because you're so used to the blackness and the darkness and the moodiness and the oppressive uh claustrophobia of the rest of the chapter, that it's this sudden burst of enormous color, you know uh, uh, imposing itself on the page, that it's just such a sudden phenomenon event that it catches you off guard, which is exactly what what's being said when the doctor's just going on and just saying, "What's going on here?" and just screaming and yelling. And yes, everything is different. Everything is in a situation of extreme mm, conflagration.
Amazing. Amazing
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah. The fire burning is yeah, showing, yeah, is mirroring the, well, the invisible fire that's burning, socially, economically, but also symbolically, also the larger conspiracy, the larger uh, procedure, the ritual that Gull is conducting and constructing, and that fire is now lit and is ongoing. And yeah, that you and the actual physical fire is mirroring that, and that
And
all these lives are engulfed in it.
yeah, no, that's an excellent way of putting it. And it also harkens, echoes back to when he was talking about the ancient history of London and
Yes,
that woman who burnt and her cohorts who burnt down London.
Boudica,
Yeah, that whole strata
Boudica,
of
yeah. Boudica,
ash in London's geology. Yeah, Boudica.
Boudica.
Except
Yeah,
that seems to be a theme here where Gull resents that, ascendancy of women at the time of Boudica. So now he's even the balance. He talks about right brain, left brain, artistic versus rational. And in him now doing that, it's that, it's a male doing it, it's a rational act.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is Gull's answer to Boudica's
Yeah.
uh, uh, rage with his own, starting his own fire that he imagines will establish his own uh, uh, regime. And both of those are also, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're going to start a conflict, which is another way of putting combat or war, and that's always talked about as a raging fire. And this is those two forces, coming together in a battle. Yeah. Yeah. And a fire is a good way to portray that. We're now going to we're now going to see how these two forces play out as they confront each other.
Got some helicopters flying over my head here. Uh, it's interesting too, because I've noticed in films where the director is also the author or the script writer, director, auteur,
Yeah.
usually are, instead of there being one really clear theme, you might say simplistic theme that threads through the narrative, there are numerous ones. And at different points in the narrative, the director, auteur, you know, can kind of throw in a thread that he doesn't exactly she doesn't exactly pull all the way through the narrative in a nice coherent way. There's just a lot of layers because it kind of catches their attention at different points of developing the whole work. And I kind of see some of that in this, where he's introduced a lot of themes, and some of them, I think the artist Campbell did an excellent job of actually trying to keep those themes consistent visually.
Mm.
Um, but there's a lot of things. He obviously, there's this, like you said, the socioeconomic commentary, women, women versus men, rational versus
Mm.
irrational, right brain versus left brain, Apollo versus Dionysius,
Mm.
corruption in the police force, et cetera, et cetera. It's like it's a mash of a lot of stuff that you're kind of forging
Yeah.
through.
There's a lot. There's a lot, definitely. I mean, I think, yeah, we should talk a lot more about this thing with specifically male and female because, I mean, obviously, there were upper class women, but, it's just, really, when you think it's so strange to us today, it might be, to think that women back then really were second class citizens, if that. I mean, you couldn't vote, you couldn't uh
Yeah, no, it was couldn't hold. I don't know. I forget as in 1888, but there
yeah,
were times not too precedent to that where women couldn't hold property actually in
yeah,
name and stuff like that.
yeah.
Uh, which interestingly were things they could do in the United States. They could hold property, but not
Okay.
even though there was the voting thing, of course.
Yeah, it's such a strong contrast. I mean, it's made all the better with that yeah, we have a male versus well, in this case 5 females.
Yeah, but you also have a class structure in Britain that
Right.
it's hard for us Americans to completely appreciate because it's still in effect.
Mhm.
So you have the aristocracy, and then you have the bourgeois, and then you have the underclass, basically.
Yeah.
And that's still the case in England. It has less legal ramifications than it used to in a century earlier, a century or more earlier. But it was a very class society, so there's no question that those poor women on the street were, just not members of society as the aristocracy saw it, or even the bourgeois. But I assume Gull is sort of bourgeois, not aristocratic. Although, of course, the murderer was allegedly, the height of the aristocracy, Queen Victoria's grandson.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no question. These women were just, you know, they were just detritus on the street. As a matter of fact, the narrative as they portray it humanizes them a lot more than they probably would have been in reality and society at that time.
That's right. Which is the great benefit of art and why we read stories, why we participate in
Yeah,
reading for to get that empathy of
yeah,
other people.
Well, listen, I'm probably going to shove off too. It has been awesome. Really enjoyed it.
Wonderful, Anne. I'm glad you're on board with reading this wonderful novel. This is one of
Um,
my favorites, and I'm hopeful we'll go even deeper in weeks to come.
Okie doke. Ciao.
All
Bye,
right, Anne. Bye.
everyone.
Anything you think it's I think we're done.
Good work. Thanks for a great analysis. I mean, the important work of art, important philosophies embodied. Wow, you really like wrapped it all up. Thanks again.
Have you read the first chapters? I mean, this was chapter 5 of the full thing.
I'm just coming in kind of based on a cursory analysis, but I plan to become more familiarized.
All right. No problem.